Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. As always, with me, my co-host and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink. What is this? This is the inaugural 2025 podcast. We've been at this for what, maybe 4 years now? Is that what we've been going on, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. In the 4 year range.
Yes, definitely in the 4 year range. I've been doing it a little bit longer than you on my own here, but so glad that we partnered up and had a blast doing it. And I wish you Happy New Year, all our listeners Happy New Year, and we got a intriguing year of tennis ahead of us for sure.
Yeah, we do, David. Happy New Year to you as well. But yeah, I like the way things are shaping up already. So I'm counting on you to lead us into the topics.
Yeah, for sure. So let's timestamp this. It's Saturday afternoon, January 4th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll get this out sometime, before the weekend ends. Hope everyone's staying warm in the States where it's cold. Obviously, our friends in Australia, it's a lot warmer over there. Let's start just with a couple quick hitter things. With the United Cup, Team USA, they're in the finals. They're going to play Poland. Coco Gauff ended the year on a very, very strong point. So did Taylor Fritz, and they're leading the way. It seems like they've kind of picked off right where they left us off at the very end of 2024.
Yeah, especially Coco. Taylor, today when he in his semifinal against Mahat, he was fortunate, saved a couple of match points, and then Mahat had to retire with cramps. So a little bit lucky there. He's been a bit in and out this week. Not Coco. She's been terrific all week and looking very formidable to the point where I would say right now, if you ask me who's got the best chance to win Australia, I'd give Sabalenka the very slight edge and Coco a strong two with Swiatek three.
I agree with you on that. It was an interesting match yesterday. Swiatek played Rybakina, and Rybakina, there's some things going on with Rybakina again. We talked about at the year end, having have her hiring Goran Ivanisevic to work with her, and we all thought that was going to be a positive too. I mean, Rybakina has one of the best serves, if not the best serve in the women's game, and Goran could only even help, maybe
Right.
embellish that weapon even further. But
Yeah.
she's been in the news now a little bit for some, I don't know, maybe raising a lot of questions, and that is bringing back the old coach that has worked with her, who there's some suspensions with him. They questions if he can be on the grounds. It just raises a lot of questions, and we're not in the inside yet, but I'm curious what Goran probably thinks about this when Rybakina goes to him and say, "Hey, I want to bring this guy back on the team for a little bit." I can't imagine Goran's reaction being very good. Again, I'm
No,
not on the inside, so I don't know.
no, it couldn't possibly. Listen, when he signed on, he obviously had no idea about this. Now, maybe the thing we don't know is, I suppose, giving her the slight benefit of the doubt, she tells him, I might bring in my old coach to work as well, but don't worry. I don't believe it though. This sounds like a decision that she made sometime in the last bunch of days, whatever it was. And she knows that the WTA tour has, he's got a provisional suspension, the coach. So he can't even, apparently can't even go on the ground. So I don't know why she would choose that moment. She knew about that. That's not news to her, but it's worrisome because a lot of people think that there's been, a lot of abuse, whether it's physical or we don't know, but certainly psychological abuse, yelling at her during matches. So everybody was so relieved, David, when it appeared that he was gone, and Goran comes in and everybody knows what a good natured fellow he is. And I never doubt that she could get along with him. But I think this is kind of also usurping Goran's authority just when he's trying to establish a rhythm with her, establish some kind of a good working relationship where he really can help her. And now he has to have a very strong minded guy coming in. So I don't think it really augurs well. Something has got to give here. And it may well be that Goran leaves the tent.
Yeah, and I mean to your point, I mean it's not like Goran's had a year or two working with her. This is still at the very beginning stages of the coaching player relationship. Again, we don't know the facts of what's gone on with Rybakina and the other coach, but by all intents and purposes, I mean there's a lot of questions raised by that relationship. And for tennis fans, I think all tennis fans like watching Elena Rybakina play tennis. She's a fantastic tennis player, and people love watching her, and they just want her to be happy and to see her playing her best tennis. So,
They
you
do.
know,
And the thing is that that under these circumstances, it's not going to be easy. I mean, she's creating a certain conflict there, and she knows that people around the tour won't be happy about this, and it just creates a kind of an unpleasant atmosphere. And then it definitely makes it tough on Goran. I have no idea what she said to him about their going forward and how it's going to work. But at least from the sounds of it, Goran will be the only one on site at the Australian Open. So we'll see how it transpires.
Yeah, we'll see how it all pans out. There was a really good article from tennis.com. It was John Burkock wrote about, it was a couple of weeks ago, I believe, on Novak about maybe like 5 more milestones he can reach this year. Before we dive into that, because I'm going to name all 5 to you and I want to hear your thoughts on all 5 of them. Before we get into that specific article, just a couple things related to Novak. You saw Nick Kyrgios play doubles with Novak. Very entertaining. Nick then played singles as well, lost. Obviously, there was 2 big servers in that match, but you saw him taping up the wrist and everything. What's your outlook on Nick in Australia? Doubles and singles. Yeah, I got to think you're more confident on the doubles side.
I guess he played the doubles first with Novak, and they won. Then he goes out and loses to Perricard, the 6'8" Frenchman. And he said he was concerned what the wrist was going to be like. He didn't say he was going to pull out. He just said, I know it's going to be sore, blah, blah, blah. He did come back and play good doubles. That's the encouraging part. They could have won their second match, and they led 8-6 in the super tiebreak at the end. And Novak went for a second serve a little bigger than he probably should have and double faulted in the deuce court, and they lost 10 points to 8. But Nick played well in that match and seemed okay, seemed to be serving in normal speeds, etc. So I don't know. He sounds only cautiously optimistic himself. The real test will be 1 or 2 long matches at the Australian. And then what? Let's say he has a 5-setter in the first round. Can he recover? Is his body all right to play that? That's going to tell us a lot.
I mean, that's no comparison, the wear and tear on your body, let alone your wrist, between doubles and singles. I mean,
Right.
singles, you're going to play, you could have 15, 20-point rallies. Again,
Yeah,
3 out of 5 sets. It's a different ballgame. And like you
it is.
said, he may be able to get through that one singles match and he even admitted he doesn't know the recovery time of what would happen in a future match if he had to play something that long. So,
No, he doesn't. But David, just a quick point. He did actually play well against Perricard. It was
yes.
tiebreaker in the third. Really was every set was hanging in the balance. And so that part was not discouraging. It's just the recovery process that we don't know about.
Yeah, I agree. Riley Opelka. We haven't not heard a lot about this gentleman for a couple of years now just because of various injuries. He comes out. We know he has a monster game, and when he plays well, he can beat anybody, which he did. He beat Novak. Does it speak more towards Riley's back on track and less of let's be worried about Novak yet? Because I don't think that match really is worrisome to the Novak himself or his group behind him.
No, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. No, listen, he was a bit caught off guard. I think he thought that maybe Riley would be a little more erratic, given that he had been away that long. Maybe he thought there'd be some openings. He knew it would be tough playing that big a server and a guy that's only barely under 7 feet tall, 6'11" plus. So no, I mean, listen, Opelka played so well, and Novak knows it. It was Novak lost his serve once in the second set. He lost an 8-6 tiebreak in the first. He just could barely win points on the guy's serve, but it wasn't really. I mean, Riley's location was so impeccable, and the speed and the variation, because he also hit some good wide slicers in the deuce court. He mixes up the speeds well and the spins. So I think it was just not a rhythm match. He had a couple of those going in. He played Monfils and won his first one easily and straight and beat Monfils and straight. And so he did get 3 matches out of this. No, it's not discouraging, but it does tell us, and Riley backed it up by beating Perricard.
Yes.
So he's in the finals as we speak. So that was also reassuring to the Opelka fans that were hoping he's on the upswing again, that it wouldn't have been one hot night against Novak and then lose, because he didn't. He won 3. He won a very similar kind of match over Perricard, 3-6 instead of 6-3. So I think it's more of that. I think Novak gets his 3 matches in, gets 2 doubles matches to boot, and starts practicing. And he's been playing without that knee sleeve, which I happen to think is very good news because last year, once he put it on at Wimbledon, that's what he was playing with it all the time. And he played with it through the Olympics and won, but it never looked terribly comfortable to have that wrap. And so now he's got it off, which tells me that during the off season, he felt stronger and better and did what was necessary and got it in better shape. So all things told, I think he's feeling good. In the meantime, Murray wasn't with him this past week, but he will be joining him any day now, and they'll be training for the Australian. And he talked about looking at films. He wants to look at video of a lot of his key opponents and go over them with Murray, and I think that's a great idea. I think they'll see a lot alike, but there'll be some things that Murray will pick out that maybe Novak had not noticed, and he'll be very open to hearing it. So he's in good shape.
Yeah, I would agree. And with the Americans coming off a really, really strong 2024, just be nice to have Riley added to
Oh,
that mix as well. It's just another one. And again, the way he plays, he's not going to give you a lot of rhythm. He's not going to give opponents a lot of rhythm. And if he can stay healthy and play high level Riley Opelka tennis, he can do some serious damage in slams.
he can. And the thing is, David, what really impressed me even more than the serving, which was pretty awesome,
Right.
was how well he played from the baseline. He was hitting these rocket returns, particularly second serve returns, that Novak was having to flick back, and he's immediately on the defense. And Riley wasn't missing that much. He was going for winners, but calculated winners, and his depth was great. And he just looks to me, and this is no insult to John Isner, who was a great player in his own right, but Riley looks to me like a better version of Isner, to be honest, because I think he moves better than Isner, and I think he's got a better backhand than Isner, and a forehand that's certainly right up there with what Isner's used to be. So I mean, and then I just feel like that movement makes a big difference in how he can acquit himself from the baseline against people like Novak. So I'm encouraged about him. On the other hand, when he played Pericard, he did need the trainer for his wrist again, where he had the surgery a while back. He said he doesn't think it's anything serious. I hope that's true. We'll find out more in the final. We'll find out at the Australian Open. But I couldn't agree more. I'd love to see him in the pack of Americans, right in there with the likes of Fritz and Shelton and Tommy Paul and Tiafoe and all the rest, and let him make his presence known again. And I think they'd love to have him back too, because let's face it, he was top 20 a couple of years back.
Yes. All right. 2025 is going to be a big year for Novak. Again, he's the last one of the big three. Roger and Rafa are no longer on the tour. And who knows, Novak can maybe play in 2026 and 2027. Only he knows the answer to that. But I think 2025 is a very big year for him because he can do some special things. And again, this article by John Burkock in tennis.com it was fun to read. And he basically outlined 5 milestones that Novak can meet. And I'm going to go through each of them with you. And then I'm going to ask you, of those 5, which do you think, if you had to pick one, which one of the 5 would he meet? So let's not do that part yet. Let's just kind of go through the 5. I'll do one at a time, and you'll give a quick snippet of your thoughts on each point. Does that sound good?
Sure, sure.
All right. So career titles, he is at 99. He could possibly get 100. The record is Jimmy Connors of 109. I'll give you a two-parter. Probably know the answer, but do you think he gets 100? And 2, he's not going to break Jimmy Connors' record this year, right?
No, not this year. He definitely would have to play through 26. 100 is coming anytime. Might even be the Australian Open. Could well have been this week. If he gets out of the Opelka match, he plays Pericard, and Opelka would have been perfect preparation for Pericard, and then the final. He would have had a good chance to win this week. No, he's getting 100 and then some. But to break Connors would require playing at least through 2026. If he does that and he's still playing well, and he picked up, say, 5 titles, 5 to 6 this year, but let's just say 5, then he can break Connors the following year if he wants to.
Can't wait. We're going to have this all on video, right? And we're going to go back to it whenever Novak's career is over. We're going to see. These were great 5 points that the writer made. All right. The 25th Grand Slam title, does it happen in 2025?
Yes.
And yes, with Sinner playing all 4 slams, or maybe Sinner out because of maybe a suspension or not?
Yes, with Sinner playing all 4, because Sinner is going to be super consistent again. If he plays all 4, he'll be deep into all those draws, but there's going to be Sinner. I don't see Sinner winning the Grand Slam. Carlos is going to be in the mix. There's others.
Right.
No, he can do it with Sinner in the field. Absolutely.
Okay. I was even going to say if he doesn't get it this year, you give him in 2026, but I'm not even going to give you that one because you're fully confident in 2025. All right. The triple career Golden Masters. He only needs to win Monte Carlo a third time. He's won all the other Masters at least three times. Does he win Monte Carlo this year?
I can't say right now. All I know is that he's underrated on clay, and if he's going to have a decent chance, there's no doubt about it. He always competes well. Depends how keyed up he is for that tournament. It's the start of the clay season. I give him a shot, but I'm not going to say right now. If I had to, I'd lean against it. Let me put it that way. But I don't put it past him.
All right. What about the quadruple Grand Slam? He needs to win a French Open a fourth time. All the other ones he's won at least four.
Well, I'll put it this way. I actually think there's a better chance of that than the Monte Carlo for the triple on the 1000s. Because if you look back at his French Open record the last couple of years, especially, I mean, he'd won it the first time in 16, then he wins in 21 and loses to Rafa in the quarters in 22, wins it in 23, and didn't lose last year, got to the quarters and had to pull out. He's played well in Roland Garros almost every year. And at this point, it's one of his favorite majors. So I think there's a decent chance that he gets another French Open this year.
Of three and four, you picked the French more than winning Monte Carlo.
Yes.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then the fifth one, he already has the record, so it's more of a milestone. But he currently has $185 million in prize money, which is by far the most of anyone. 200 million. Can he reach the 200 million mark in 2025?
Boy, I'd say odds may be slightly against that.
Yeah.
But again, no, it's going to depend again on which tournaments he wins, what kind of prize money he's piling up in the 1000s, what he's getting at the slants. Probably falls a little short on that one. But again, he'd make it happen if he played in 26.
Right. And he's going to play a lot of the bigger tournaments. He's not going to play a lot of smaller tournaments.
Yeah, but he's going to have to win. He's got to win more time. Last year, obviously, the reason he ended up 7 was, number one, he got no points for the Olympics, and that was the only title he won. And right. He was the Wimbledon final. So he's got it. But I think inevitably he is going to start picking up some titles again this year.
Yeah, I really like these. I mean, just thinking about it when I was writing them down, I didn't know what you were going to say, but what you said was basically spot on with what I was thinking as well. The ones that you were a little dicey on were the hardest ones, I think, in my opinion. It was a good article. It was good. There were good 5 points to throw out there. And I think we all agree it's a big year for Novak in 2025 because we don't know what he wants to do from that point forward, his health, his motivation. But we have it on video now. So maybe when he does retire, or at least at the beginning of 2026, we can go back and see which ones Novak may or may not have made.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just add one thing, David. There's no doubt that the one of all of the stats you mentioned, the 25th major is what he wants the most. And because he didn't really have to have it, given that he's got the most of any man in history, but I think he would like to break this tie that he has with Margaret Court so that he's the only tennis player with 25. And I think he likes the number 25. Why wouldn't he? So, and having not won one this year, having to be content with the Olympics, which was about as close as you could come to a slam, I think he's going to be that much more eager in the coming year to find a way to get that done. And the good news for him is that he's so competitive in all of them. I mean, Australia, he's going for his 11th title there. He's going for that 4th at Roland Garros. He's going for that 8th title at Wimbledon and going for a 5th at the U.S. Open. So he's had so much success at all of them, and he's so good on all the surfaces.
Of the four? What are you most confident on? I'm leaning Australia.
Yeah, I'm leaning a little. I like the feel of Australia because despite the fact that he didn't get it last year and didn't play a good match against Sinner in the semis, there were a lot of things going on. Seemed to be battling some kind of a heavy cold. There were factors, but
I'm not saying he's favorite. I'm saying of the 4 that he plays, I'm leaning Novak to winning the Australia over of the other 3 that he plays.
I hear you. I'm just trying to analyze it, and it's hard to say. They all come in there Nobody's played a lot. He is prepared well this year. Carlos is coming in kind of cold after playing Exos in the offseason. Sinner's going to come in kind of cold. So maybe he has a certain advantage over them in that sense. But the disadvantage right now in Australia that might not be there at Roland Garros and the others if he picks his ranking up is that he's going to be seeded 7.
Right.
So, in fact, he and Carlos and Sinner could all end up in the same quarter. Same half. Sorry, not same quarter, same half. So, you might have him playing one of those two in the quarters, and if he wins, he plays the other in the semis, and the other half is much weaker. So it's hard.
Yeah, it's a lot different if you're the top seed. It definitely is.
Yeah. But all I'm saying is he doesn't have to put tremendous pressure on himself. He should go after this at full force because he knows that the others are going to be there and that he's going to be a strong contender at any of the other majors. But in turn, it's his home away from home. It's been his best major. So that's what makes it, that's the optimistic side.
I love, how much I kind of moan and complain about how the season being so long and after the US Open. I love that at the beginning of the year, you have a slam pretty much right out of the chute. There's one or two, warm up tournaments, but I love it. And you see who's ready to go right away, who's been putting in the hard yards. And for those that have not been putting in the hard yards and been taking a little bit more time off, I think it's super, super exciting that there isn't like a long runway to get to that first slam. I love that it's pretty much right out of the chute. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I feel the same way. It's not. I feel sorry for the players. I think it's not easy to have some type of a holiday season, whatever they can get out of the holidays, and then get over there early and prepare. And ideally, they wouldn't play the Australian until March, but they've never been able to resolve that issue. But from the standpoint of the public, it just gets you right into the tennis season immediately. I love that part of it.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to do this. We'll do a show after the draw comes out. We'll break it down. And again, excited to go here, Steve. 2025, right? We're going to have a great year.
Well, what I like is since you and I work so closely together, and I know how your mind works, and I know how much you love all the sports. But I like the fact that this is the time of year now that we're heading toward the Australian that you're revitalized. I can feel your excitement. So I enjoy that as your co-host of these podcasts.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for your time. Happy New Year to everybody. And we're going to be back with another one, pre-Australian Open, breaking down the draw. So thanks again, Steve.
Thank you, David.